Hi, I'm Zach from Coherence, and today I'm going to give you a walkthrough of the Coherence dashboard. Coherence is an internal developer platform that offers three key areas of functionality we're going to explore today. One is the developer portal and self-service functionality around environment, service, and configuration, including variable management. One is build and deploy pipelines. So for integration and delivery of your software, building things like Docker containers, putting them in container registries and pushing them into runtimes like Kubernetes or ECS or Cloud Run. Last is infrastructure as code management. So the ability to manage infrastructure as code state, show you what the system's doing and execute with the right permissions, both with your cloud and with the user's permissions to take the action in a fully managed solution. Coherence offers all of that powered by our open source configuration framework, CNC, that we're going to talk about at the end. And yeah, so we'll start with infrastructure as code provisioning tasks. Those are what live here. And as you add and remove configuration and environments, you'll get resources that you need to add or change. That'll happen automatically in many cases. You can always kick those jobs off manually here and get information about who ran these and when and why, what was happening, and if there are any errors or quota issues that you need to address. And yeah, there's a really useful audit log for many people. Next up, we're going to look at environment management. So each of these sets of infrastructure lives in what Coherence calls a collection within your application. So you can have many applications. Here I've got one on GCP, one on AWS, and another one that is in a migration from Heroku. Each of those can have what we call many collections, which have their own infrastructure state, can be in their own region. So each of these deployments, when you set it up, can live in a different region and has its own sets of provisioning tasks and environments. So in this one that we're looking at the tasks of before, I've got two different environments, demo and deploy. I've got my variables, and these variables are going to be inherited by all environments. I can then, as I'll show you, override those at each scope as I need to. For each of these environments, the ability to manage the services and the deployments and configuration lives in the environment details page over here. So we'll look at this deploy one, for example. Depending on your configuration, you're either going to get hooked up to tracking a Git branch automatically. This is optional, but if you do that, every time you push, you'll get a build. Otherwise, when you come over here, you can drop a new build and choose what branch you want to deploy and what commit you want to deploy from. Makes it easy, even if you're tracking another branch and you want to test something on somebody's PR, makes it easy to do that. And each time that happens, you'll get the build and deploy stages, and we'll link you right to the cloud and the commit that triggered these. And if they fail, we'll pull the logs right into our UI. So you can see here, this build failed. I did this on purpose for the demo, but this will show me the build logs, the event logs from the runtime system if they're available, and even the app logs from the latest revision, all kind of tied together. It makes it easy to see what went wrong. I added foo command here, and that's what broke. But this is really useful and easy for developers to know what's going wrong in their services. Let's say I'm adding a new service. I can go ahead and do that here of all these different types, and we'll look at CNC framework itself at the end of this, but this is all powered by CNC, and you have total control over what these back-end, front-end database things turn into when they get created using the customization and built-in power of CNC. So there's out-of-the-box different deployment flavors, that, as we call them, that you can choose from, which are reference architectures that these will translate into, and then there's also the ability to customize those as you need to. The variables, as we saw, we inherited the one that we saw at the outer scope, and I could override this or add a new variable of all these different types of secrets that get stored in Secret Manager, standard variables that get stored in just the database, aliasing other variables, including all these built-in ones that we provide. So let's say you add a database, we call it database URL, you want to call it Postgres URL, you can set an alias, and you can even configure Terraform outputs. If you write custom Terraform with CNC, to be populated back into your application, which is a really powerful tool that makes it easy to do hard stuff. You can always, if these sort of forms that we provide don't meet your needs and all the advanced use cases, you can always drop into the raw CNC YAML here, and you can configure custom domains in addition to the Coherence managed domains for SSL and DNS that we provide. You just have to manage the DNS part. We'll still manage SSL and load balancer configuration for custom domains. Every environment has a status, so these are really useful for things like ephemeral environments or branch previews. You can pause these and archive these automatically, and those depend on whether we're spinning down everything or keeping the database around, which fit different use cases. And each application can have many repositories. You can manage members here, for who's allowed to view the application with different roles. And then you can have many repositories, as well as you can have settings for choosing which template environment is going to be used for branch previews if you enable that, where you can just throw a tag on a GitHub PR. Coherence will intercept that event and will configure the right environment based on what you provide. And what that ends up looking like is the ability to clone from an existing environment, which lets you copy all the services and settings and variables over, makes it really easy to configure new environments automatically. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is CNC. We've talked about it a few times, but this is the ability to customize the infrastructure as code and build and deploy scripts that we provide. So you can set that up within your application settings. And what this lets you do with CNC Framework, cncframework.com, is manage the scripts and infrastructure as code files that are generated by these different lifecycle stages, and use this open source framework, which has a lot of information here about how you can customize and configure it to control the shape of the application that this developer platform is powering. And, we think ultimately not being a black box and giving you more control over this application is what's going to make this the right solution for your team. So excited for you to give it a try. Thanks.